In today's lesson, we will be covering indices. Indices are actually the powers we apply to our number. That is also why in our BITMAS abbreviation, I stands for index. And so, when we write the notation for any number raised by any power, it is the same as saying any base of any index. Notation here just means math language. It is how we write to represent mathematical formulas and expressions. And so now that you have learned these 3 new words, let's actually get started with the math. One thing to recap first is that power or indices operation is where we simplify a number that is repeatedly multiplied by itself. And in this chapter, you are actually going to learn more rules to apply when dealing with calculations that involve indices. There are in total 6 rules, and we will cover 3 in this video and 3 more in the next. Rule number 1. When multiplying index expression with the same base, sum the powers. Notice these 2 conditions. Numbers must have the same base and must be multiplied together. Let's have a look at an example. Let's say 3 squared multiplied by 3 to the power of 4. And if you try to break this down, this is basically the same as 3 multiplied by itself for 6 times. And notice why having the same base here is so important. This is equals to 3 to the power of 6. And so, right, if we apply the rule of adding their powers together, we actually also get the same thing. 3 squared times 3 to the power of 4 is equals to 3 to the power of 2 plus 4, and we will still get 3 to the power of 6. We will also see the same thing happen when we have variables as the base instead. So let's say x to the power of 3 times x to the power of 4. Notice that the base is the same, which is x. And so, we can break it down to find x multiplied by itself for 7 times. And it would have been the same if we had summed the powers together, which is x by power of 3 times x by power of 4, sum the powers, you get x to the power of 7, and there you go. Rule number 2. When dividing index expression with the same base, subtract the powers. Again, notice that this rule only applies when the base is the same, but this time we're looking at a division operation. So let's look at an example again. 3 power of 4 divided by 3 power of 2. And we can break it down into 3 multiplied by itself for 4 times divided by 3 multiplied by itself for 2 times. So if we simplify the fraction by division, we get ourselves 3 squared. And so it would have just been the same as 3 raised by the power of 4 minus 2. Let's try another example with a variable base. Let's say x to the power of 6 divided by x by power of 2. We can see that the same thing happens. X multiplied by itself for 6 times divided by x times x. And after we simplify everything, we will get x to the power of 4. And it will also be the same as x raised by the power of 6 minus 2. And always remember that the base here must be the same for the 2 rules that we have just discussed. Rule number 3. Any value raised by the power of 0 is equals to 1. We can see how this rule works by looking at an example. Take 3 divided by 3, which is equals to 1. We know that any number divided by itself, it will be 1. And so, x divided by x is also 1. Technically, this is also 3 raised by the power of 1 divided by 3 raised by the power of 1. And if we apply the rule that we learned just now, then we can minus the power, and we have 3 raised by the power of 1 minus 1, which is equals to 3 to the power of 0. And so we can see that these 2 are equal. And if they are equal, then this also equals to 1. You can actually try this with any number. Let's say x raised by the power of 4 divided by x raised by the power of 4. And so you subtract the powers, x raised by the power of 4 minus 4, you will get x to the power of 0, and you would find the same answer, which is equals to 1. Okay, that is it for this chapter on the first 3 rules of indices. In the next video, we will cover 3 more rules before we attempt some exercises to practice. For any questions or concerns, you can check the description box or leave a comment below. And I will see you in the next video. Take care.